So, I wanted to talk today about the abortion debate again. I am on chapter like 23 of the Roe family here. I've got my book down here. I may need to reference it, but I think it's pretty much in my head now. Basically, third term, third trimester abortions. Um, they were looked down upon years ago. Not that long ago. I would say probably about 11 years ago is what we're looking at. They were really looked down upon. And even an abortionist for a profession was looked down upon by other doctors. If you became an abortionist like Boyd did in the abortion movement, so many doctors looked down upon him. Later on, as abortion grew in the 70s, he did have a lot of awards for his work. And, when you read this book, it's astonishing to see how far people are willing to go into darkness to get what they want. So, for example, he had started off doing abortions, and it's just amazing how when someone's doing like something really sick like abortion, it just grows and grows, and it's just disgusting. So he started off doing abortions, and he really didn't know what he was kind of doing at first, and then he started getting good at it, and people referred to him as the doctor with magic hands because he could go in there and pretty much do it blindfolded. He knew what he was doing. He decided to be an expert on this, and I think he only had like 1 in 5,000 women he said that he felt needed to go to the hospital after an abortion. And he was doing this for a while. We see a long process, many, many years of him doing this. And then he actually considers doing second trimester abortions. And he was kind of, hesitant to do that. And then he starts it just shows the progression of him going down that road. And he always felt at one point he would never do third trimester because he had a hypothetical woman he felt that would come into his mind and scare him. Like, what if it was the night before of her giving birth that she would actually want an abortion? He knew he would turn her away, he said. And I'm reading this and I'm thinking, oh no, you're going to change your mind. You're going to change it because what's the difference? Abortion's abortion. So sure enough, as you look down the road here, we have Dr. Tiller, who was only, I think, one of 2 doctors in the whole world being willing to do third trimester abortions in, Europe, everywhere, around the whole world. And he made, millions of dollars doing this. And the thing is, Boyd always thought he would not do this. It almost sounds moral, like, oh, I will only go up to second trimester, but I could never do third. And finally, he had to reckon with himself. He had to come to the conclusion that if you're doing 1 abortion, then why not third trimester? And if that woman ever did come to him, he knew, first of all, it was a fake fear he had in his mind. But if she did come to him, he just felt like, he would deal with it then, and it really wasn't even going to happen. And why would that stop him from doing what he's doing? And he actually looked at abortion as a ministry to help women out of desperation. So we see Tiller come on the scene, and once Tiller was shot in 2009, I believe, he was shot and killed. He actually went to church, and that was really weird. I barely remember hearing his name in the news. Someone had shot him before in both his arms, so he couldn't do abortions, and this time he was in church and someone approached him, put a gun to his forehead, and killed him. There were fanatics who were going to abortion clinics and bombing places, no doubt. They felt that it was wrong for them to continuously kill innocent babies, and they felt that they needed to take justice into their own hands. That's something that the state usually does. It's not something that an individual usually does. So with him being killed, they now needed Boyd to do third trimester abortions, and he did. He did do it, and he actually later was quoted as saying, "It's not really a baby until it's born." He already knew at 24 weeks there was viability for the baby, but now he was saying it doesn't breathe until it's born. The baby isn't alive until it's born. So, that just goes against science. That goes against so much science of even having a stillbirth baby. That you're delivering a dead child. It is a baby. It was living. Therefore, how could it have been dead? Unless it was living. So he just kind of went and hardened his heart even more. And I think that happens when we start, living in darkness and believing in lies and everything, that he grew callous. His conscience was seared, and he didn't really, up until chapter 23 where I'm at, it didn't seem to bother him at all to do this. He really felt deceived in the way that he thought he was helping women. Something I did see that struck me differently, and it is so good to be going through the abortion history. I would recommend anyone who wants to know more about abortion to look at the history, to see how we got here, to look at all the people, all the players in it, the Supreme Court, the thinking behind it all. Because, Norma McCorvey could not put something like this together. She actually was just totally unstable in everything. She would say that, she loved her daughter when she reached out to her, and then she would reject her again. And then she would say that she believed in abortion, but yet she would also feel that she had to live with that, seeing kids on the playground playing. On and on it goes, her contradictions, to admitting that she lied about a rape, etc., etc. So she wasn't a reliable resource in the abortion movement, and who would want to believe somebody like that? So the abortion movement kind of took on a life of its own. And one thing that did strike me in this book is Tiller was talking about women who choose abortion. A lot of times they're not even thinking about the baby. They're thinking about their own future. They're looking at their future, and it's a cry of desperation. It's saying, I cannot deal with a baby. This is what my life looks like. A baby doesn't fit into my future. So I found some truth there, as far as the woman is usually just thinking more about herself and her future, rather than thinking about the child and the child's future. And we see that, my body, my choice. We see that all the time now. And it's a real narrow view. It's a situation where women can't seem to think a little bit outside the box and realize that motherhood doesn't happen overnight. It is a slow process in the pregnancy to prepare for motherhood. And when you have a baby, we don't need to think about, how am I going to pay for college? It doesn't happen like that. Your first concerns are being pregnant and learning about pregnancy and how you're going to have that baby. So you have a lot of time. And then once the baby's born, you have to think about really just taking care of the baby. And again, in my other video, I talked about it really doesn't cost anything to nurse and then move the baby to solids and cloth diapers and just your care. And the time the baby's walking, 5 or 6 years old, many parents put them in kindergarten, and they have a lot of their time to themselves again. So it really doesn't have to be as traumatizing as women think to have children. And if you don't want your children, change your attitude or give the child up for adoption to people who do want them. It is sad to see people have children when they don't want them. But again, people can overcome that. People grow up and say, you know what? I may not have been wanted and I may have been rejected from my own family, but it doesn't really matter. I still deserve to be born and to have a life and to be happy and to be around other people who can appreciate me. So you can overcome that. And so I'm up to 23, and like I think I have like 10 more chapters. I think it's up to 36 chapters in the book. And I actually had to put the book down because of so much perverse stuff that was going on. I mean, just disgusting stuff with the mentality of the doctors, wanting to, just abort babies so quickly. I mean, there were some cases where they did turn women away at third term trimester pregnancies, but for the most part they would do it. And I forget the doctor's name right now, but one of the doctors actually talked about how he would use forceps to crush the baby's head. And they, when questioned about this by a committee of New Hampshire, or not New Hampshire, but a right to life committee, they actually said that they gave the baby something so the baby would not feel any pain. And it was later proven that the baby actually does still feel that pain, even with medication. When you're crushing a baby's head, it's absolutely disgusting. So, I mean, we're talking, 11 years ago, Tiller died, and he was one of two who did this kind of abortion. So we know late term has not been around very long, late term abortions. And, even Tiller said at the beginning, the worst thing he ever thought was not the woman asking for abortion, but even worse than that was the doctor who would perform the abortion. So this is fairly new still, and we had laws before that helped a woman not want to have abortion. They actually tried to make laws to say, hey, you have to have an ultrasound, you have to have parents' consent, you have to have this and this, to try to make women turn away from this. But now we're seeing all hands off, anything goes. A woman, if she wants to have the baby killed right after birth, that's okay too. And we've really gone crazy and insane with all this abortion stuff, and it needs to stop. It really does. It's something women need to not want. I mean, if we could get to the heart of it, why would a woman want this? They shouldn't be wanting this. They should be wanting to be mothers once that child is conceived. And we know that Jesus too, I mean, this is something that Christians believe, was made, he came in the flesh, and the flesh was in the womb when he leapt for joy. And this is when life starts. It's when a child is conceived. It's not, as Boyd thought, once the baby is born. It is, obviously, we see C-sections and babies prematurely born, and we can clearly see it's a baby. So the darkness will hide the truth, or men like darkness better than they like light. And definitely in Boyd's case, he preferred the darkness. He preferred to sear his conscience rather than to really, come to the light with what abortion was. And obviously he knew, seeing these babies all the time. And something one of the doctors said that I thought was really disgusting was they were addicted to the most inner parts of a woman, and the womb, where the baby's supposed to be the safest. They were so addicted to connecting at a level with women, with her innermost being of the womb, that they continued abortion. So I think it was right around then I pretty much put the book down and said, this is absolutely disgusting, So, okay, so that's where I'm at, and I'll be sharing more about abortion, and hopefully Texas is able to keep the laws over there. Hopefully the bans stay in place, and we'll be seeing on November 1st what is happening here in the nation with this.